What if I told you one of the most important people in Lynyrd Skynyrd history left the band before they ever became famous? And while Skynyrd became legends, he disappeared into bars, broken vans, and a southern rock band that almost nobody talks about anymore. But what if I told you that same guy would eventually fight his way back into Skynyrd decades later and become one of the last living links to the band's beginning? February 17th, 1950. Jacksonville, Florida. Long before Southern rock became a genre, Jacksonville was producing musicians who played louder, rougher, and harder than almost anyone else in the South. Lynyrd Skynyrd, Molly Hatchet, 38 Special, and Blackfoot all came out of that same city. That was not random. Something about Jacksonville created musicians who sounded like they had something to prove. Ricky Medlocke was born directly into that world, but his story almost started very differently. His mother was only 16 years old when he was born, and his biological father was not around. For a short time, the plan was for Ricky to be sent to an orphanage. Then, his grandfather stepped in. Paul "Shorty" Medlocke was a working musician around Jacksonville. He played bluegrass, country, and Delta blues anywhere people would pay him. Shorty and his wife Ruby adopted Ricky and raised him as their own. That decision changed everything. Music filled the house constantly. By age 3, Ricky was already performing on local television with a miniature banjo his grandfather gave him. The show was called The Toby Dowdy Show, and viewers could not believe a little kid was actually playing live on TV. The station reportedly got flooded with mail after his appearances. Most musicians dream about being on stage someday. Ricky Medlocke basically grew up on one. By age 5, he had taught himself guitar. By age 8, he was playing drums in his grandfather's band in front of real audiences. Night after night, that kind of experience changes people. You stop being nervous. You learn how crowds react. You learn timing and pressure before most kids even know what they want to be. Then British rock exploded in the 1960s. Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page. Ricky especially loved Clapton because he mixed blues with heavier guitar playing. That combination stayed with him forever. But then came the part that could have ended everything. Around age 9, Ricky developed pulmonary fibrosis, a serious lung disease. Doctors removed part of one lung, and according to family accounts, the outlook afterward was not good. But he recovered. And people who knew him later said he always played with urgency after that, almost like he understood time was never guaranteed. By the late 1960s, he was deep inside Jacksonville's music scene. And one of the other musicians moving through that same scene was a young singer named Ronnie Van Zant. Ronnie Van Zant already had a reputation around Jacksonville before Lynyrd Skynyrd ever released a record. He was intense, demanding, and completely obsessed with getting better. Musicians either respected him or avoided him, usually both. At the same time, Ricky Medlocke was building his own band. In 1969, Medlocke teamed up with bassist Greg T. Walker and guitarist Charlie Hargret. At first, the band went through names like Fresh Garbage and Hammer before settling on Blackfoot, a name connected to the Native American heritage shared by several members. Unlike a lot of rock band names from that era, this one actually meant something personal, but early Blackfoot struggled badly. The band bounced between Florida, New York, and New Jersey, trying to get attention from labels, and almost nothing worked. The gigs were inconsistent, money was tight, and the music industry at the time was brutally competitive. For every band that got signed, hundreds disappeared. So, Ricky made a phone call to Ronnie Van Zant. He basically offered to do anything. Drive trucks, carry equipment, set up gear. He just wanted to be connected to something moving forward. Ronnie asked him one thing: "Do you still play drums?" Ricky said yes. Just like that, he was in Lynyrd Skynyrd. Between 1971 and 1972, Ricky Medlocke played drums for the band and even sang lead vocals on several early recordings. Years later, those recordings were released on the album Skynyrd's First and Last. His voice appeared on songs like White Dove,
White dove sitting on a blackberry bush.
Preacher's Daughter,
You know your sister told your mama about the bar next door.
and Wino.
Wino on the street, drinking a bottle of booze.
Now, this part matters. Ricky was absolutely part of early Skynyrd history. But the creative core of the band was still Ronnie Van Zant, Gary Rossington, and Alan Collins. They were building the sound and identity people would eventually associate with Lynyrd Skynyrd forever. And Ricky realized something pretty quickly. He did not want to stay behind a drum kit in somebody else's band. He wanted his own band, his own songs, his own spotlight. So in 1972, he left and rebuilt Blackfoot around himself as frontman and lead guitarist. At the time, the decision made total sense. Skynyrd was not famous yet. Nobody knew what was coming. But wait, this next part changes everything. 5 years later, in October 1977, Lynyrd Skynyrd's plane crashed in Mississippi after running out of fuel. Ronnie Van Zant died. Steve Gaines died. Cassie Gaines died. The crash instantly transformed the band from successful rock group into American legend. And Ricky Medlocke watched all of it from the outside. By then, he had already been gone for years. That fact followed him forever. He had been there at the beginning, but left before Skynyrd exploded into history. Meanwhile, Blackfoot kept grinding. Small clubs, cheap motels, endless touring, broken equipment. They were building something heavier than most southern rock bands at the time. Lynyrd Skynyrd leaned into blues and country influences. Blackfoot added weight, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, louder guitars, harder drums. And slowly, people started noticing, especially the live shows. Word spread across the South the old-fashioned way. Somebody saw Blackfoot live, then told 5 friends they needed to see this insane band from Jacksonville. That momentum finally led to a major breakthrough in 1979 with an album called Strikes. And one song changed everything. Train, Train.
I jumped off a boxcar, then around Tennessee.
The second Train, Train started, people knew exactly what they were hearing. That opening guitar riff sounded massive, raw, confident, like it had been blasting out of southern bars for years before radio finally caught up to it. And in a way, it had. The song actually started with Ricky Medlocke's grandfather, Shorty. The same man who saved him from going to an orphanage had written the original version years earlier. Ricky took that idea, plugged it into Blackfoot's heavier sound, and suddenly the band had their breakthrough. Train, Train became a rock radio hit and pushed the album Strikes onto the Billboard charts. Then came Highway Song.
Another town is drawing near. Oh, baby, I wish you were here.
And this was the track that really cemented Blackfoot's reputation. Unlike the louder Southern party songs happening around that era, Highway Song felt emotional and huge at the same time. The twin guitars, the slow build, the sense of movement in the lyrics. It became one of those songs that people connected with immediately, especially live. Strikes eventually went platinum. After nearly a decade of grinding through clubs and bad gigs, Blackfoot finally arrived. And here is something a lot of people forget. Blackfoot was not surviving off image. They were not flashy. They were not polished. They won fans because they absolutely destroyed live audiences. By the end of 1979, they were opening for The Who at the Pontiac Silverdome in front of enormous crowds. Imagine that jump for a second. 1 minute, you are fighting for tiny bar gigs in Florida. The next, you are standing on stage before tens of thousands of people opening for one of the biggest rock bands on earth. Ricky Medlocke finally had exactly what he wanted back when he left Skynyrd. His own band, his own songs, his own audience, and Blackfoot kept rolling. Tomcattin' came out in 1980. Marauder followed in 1981. Then came the live album Highway Song Live in 1982. For several years, Blackfoot looked unstoppable. But what made the band special also created a problem later. They were too heavy for traditional Southern rock audiences sometimes, but too Southern for mainstream hard rock radio. Blackfoot lived in this strange middle ground all by themselves. At first, that uniqueness helped them stand out. Then the music industry changed, fast. By the early 1980s, MTV completely rewired rock music. Suddenly, image mattered almost as much as songs. Glam metal exploded. Mötley Crüe, Rat, Bon Jovi, Def Leppard, big hair, flashy videos, polished production. and Blackfoot looked like they belonged to a different world. The band tried adapting a little, but here is where it gets wild. The more they tried fitting into the changing music industry, the more they lost the raw identity fans loved in the first place. Then things started falling apart internally. In 1984, founding guitarist Charlie Hargrett left the band. According to reports from that period, management believed his image did not fit the newer MTV era. And honestly, that tells you everything about how much the industry had changed. A few years earlier, nobody cared how dangerous or rough a southern rock band looked. Now executives were treating bands like fashion campaigns. After Hargrett left, lineup changes started happening constantly. New members came in, others left. The chemistry that built Blackfoot's classic sound slowly disappeared. By 1985, the original era of Blackfoot was basically over, and Ricky Medlocke suddenly found himself facing a brutal reality. He had spent years building one of the toughest southern rock bands in America. Right when America stopped wanting southern rock, Ricky Medlocke refused to quit. Even after Blackfoot started falling apart, he kept pushing forward because music was the only life he had ever known. Remember, this was a guy who had been performing since age 3. Stopping completely probably felt impossible. So in 1987, he rebuilt the band under the name Rick Medlocke and Blackfoot and signed with Atlantic Records. But the sound had changed. The new version leaned much harder into the slick radio rock style dominating the late 80s. And fans noticed immediately. The old Blackfoot audience wanted grit. They wanted swampy riffs, heavy drums, and songs that sounded like they came from real southern highways and bars. Instead, the newer material sounded cleaner and more commercial. The label hoped it would compete with the glam metal bands taking over MTV. It did not work. Atlantic moved on, and Medlocke kept touring anyway. Smaller venues now, smaller crowds too. But he stayed on stage because that was still the place where he felt most alive. Then came 1991. And honestly, almost no rock bands from the previous decade survived what happened next. Nirvana released Nevermind. Within months, the entire rock world shifted underneath everybody's feet. Grunge replaced glam metal almost overnight. Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains. Suddenly flashy hard rock looked outdated. Radio stations completely changed direction again. For Medlocke, it was another massive wave hitting at exactly the wrong time. First southern rock fell out of fashion, then glam metal collapsed too. The industry kept changing faster than Blackfoot could realistically adapt. By the mid-90s, the band was running mostly on loyalty from longtime fans. Medlocke released albums like Medicine Man and After the Rain, but mainstream attention was mostly gone. Then something happened nobody could have predicted. In 1996, Gary Rossington called him. Rossington was one of the founding guitarists of Lynyrd Skynyrd and one of the survivors of the 1977 plane crash. Since the late 80s, he and Ronnie Van Zant's younger brother Johnny had rebuilt Skynyrd into a touring force again. Now, they needed another guitarist, and Rossington wanted Ricky Medlocke. Think about how strange that moment must have felt. 24 years earlier, Ricky had left Skynyrd because he wanted to lead his own band. Now, Blackfoot had faded, southern rock had changed forever, and the band he once walked away from was offering him a second chance. Rossington reportedly asked him if he still remembered how to play the old songs. Yeah, he remembered. And here's the important part. Medlocke did not come back as a nostalgic guest. He became a major part of modern Lynyrd Skynyrd almost immediately. His guitar playing fit naturally beside Rossington's, and audiences responded to him right away because he carried real history with the band. He had actually been there near the beginning. Not many people on Earth could say that. But while Medlocke was rebuilding his career inside Skynyrd, tragedy hit Blackfoot one more time. Jackson Spires, Blackfoot's original drummer and one of the key architects of the band's sound, suffered a brain aneurysm in 2005. 3 days later, he died at just 53 years old. And outside southern rock circles, barely anybody talked about it. That hurt longtime fans deeply because Spires was not just the drummer. He co-wrote songs like Highway Song,
Highway song, you sing it on and on.
and helped shape the entire identity of Blackfoot from the beginning. His death felt like the final closing chapter of the original band. But wait, there was still one final twist left in Ricky Medlocke's story. Because eventually, even Lynyrd Skynyrd itself would face the question nobody wanted to ask. What happens when every original member is gone? By the 2000s, Lynyrd Skynyrd had become something bigger than a normal band. It was an American institution. The songs were everywhere. Sweet Home Alabama,
Sweet home Alabama.
Freebird,
Things just couldn't be the same.
Simple Man,
In this simple kind of thing.
even people who never bought a Skynyrd album knew the music. And Ricky Medlocke was now one of the key faces keeping that music alive, on stage, every night. But time was catching up to everybody. Alan Collins had died in 1990. Leon Wilkeson died in 2001. Billy Powell died in 2009. Bob Burns died in 2015. One by one, the people connected to classic Skynyrd disappeared. Then came March 5th, 2023. Gary Rossington died at 71 years old after years of serious heart problems and multiple surgeries. And with his death, something massive changed forever. There were no original founding members left in Lynyrd Skynyrd anymore. That immediately started a huge debate among fans. Some believed the band should end completely. Others argued the music mattered more than the lineup itself. And Ricky Medlocke suddenly found himself in the middle of that conversation. Because unlike almost anyone else remaining, Medlocke understood every chapter of the story personally. He had known Ronnie Van Zant before the fame. He had played in early Skynyrd before the plane crash. He had built his own southern rock band from nothing. And he had spent nearly 30 years helping carry Skynyrd into newer generations. So, when the band decided to continue touring after Rossington's death, Medlocke defended the decision publicly. He said Rossington himself wanted the music to continue after he was gone. Whether fans agreed or not, Medlocke's opinion carried weight because he was not some outsider cashing in on nostalgia. He had lived through almost the entire history of Southern rock firsthand. And here is where it gets crazier. Most musicians at that age slow down completely. Ricky Medlocke did the opposite. In 2024, at 74 years old, he released a new solo single called Never Run Out of Road.
Lights the fire up to me. I've got my reason for moving on, and I'll never run out of road.
Then came another song called Rise Again.
I touched the water and the river ran wild. I'm looking back on fields of dust and ash.
Tied to awareness for missing and murdered Indigenous women, proceeds supported the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center. That part matters because the Blackfoot name had always connected to his Native American heritage. Now, he was bringing that identity directly into his solo work decades later. And somehow, after everything, people still listened. That is the part of Ricky Medlocke's story that makes it different from most rise and fall rock documentaries. This was not one giant peak followed by collapse. It was three completely different careers stitched together. First came early Skynyrd, where he stood near the beginning of something legendary before walking away. Then came Blackfoot, where he fully became himself creatively and built a platinum-selling southern hard rock band from scratch. Then came the return to Lynyrd Skynyrd, where he helped keep one of America's most iconic catalogs alive, long after almost everyone else from the original era was gone. And through all three chapters, one thing never changed. He kept performing. Remember, this is somebody doctors were not even sure would survive childhood after lung surgery. Instead, he spent more than 70 years on stage. Train still blasts out of classic rock stations. Highway Song still sounds massive with the volume turned up. Freebird still stops crowds cold every single night. And Ricky Medlocke is still out there playing them. Not because the music industry stayed loyal, not because trends helped him, but because he simply never stopped. One thing that makes Ricky Medlocke's story different from so many other rock musicians is that every chapter could have been the ending. Leaving Lynyrd Skynyrd before they became famous could have been the end. Watching Blackfoot slowly collapse during the MTV era could have been the end. Losing friends, bandmates, and watching Southern rock fade from the center of popular music could have been the end too. But somehow, he kept finding another road forward, and maybe that is why people still connect with his music today. Not because it sounds perfect or polished, but because it sounds lived in, earned. Songs like Train, Train, and Highway Song still work because you can hear the years behind them. The struggle, the miles, the nights playing to tiny crowds before the success finally arrived. At 75 years old, Medlocke is still performing, still recording, and still carrying pieces of Southern rock history that very few people left alive can honestly talk about firsthand. 3 chapters, 3 completely different careers, and somehow, against every odd stacked against him, Ricky Medlocke survived all of them. That alone makes his story worth remembering.